Hey, Mr. Chairman, this meeting is live.
Okay, thank you, sir. I will now call to order the Board of Appeals for the City of Haverty Grace. The zoning board will meet tonight, January the 21st, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. The purpose of our meeting tonight is to hear case number 513. This is a conditional use request. Let me first make certain that operate as if you have been sworn in and have taken an oath stating that you would give only true and honest, whole truth statements. Does anybody have any question as to their responsibilities as far as having been sworn in? Anyone who's going to make any testimony tonight?
No, sir.
Are we all good? Okay. The codified zoning and ordinance for the mayor and city council of Haverty Grace specify procedures governing the operation of the Board of Appeals for the city. Section 3 dictates administrative requirements to be met prior to a hearing, including such things as posting the property, advertising, notification of applicable property owners. Mr. Grimm, have these all been met?
Yes, sir. And just so that you know, we did post the property, and we did notice with Ms. Bordone letting us know that the sign had come down, that we did repost the property again yesterday, a second time, to ensure that there was proper notification. And adjacent property owners were also notified.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. The ordinance governing the operation of the Board of Appeals for the city is a matter of public record and is available at City Hall should anyone wish to review it. As I said before, the applicant is seeking a conditional use. Do we have a report from the Planning Commission?
I have a memorandum from the Planning Commission to read to the Board of Appeals.
Please do.
All right, dated January 18th, Mr. Chairman, from Volney Ford. It's the request for the conditional use of the Newman Foster Family Trust applicant, 550 Revolution Street, permit number 2021-0212. The Planning Commission met on January 11th, 2021 to hear the above referenced case in which the applicant requests a conditional use to operate an assisted living facility for up to 15 residents on this lot within the RO district. The applicant intends to utilize the existing structure and to build an adjoining structure in order to reach the maximum capacity of 15 residents. Upon hearing testimony regarding justifications for this request, as well as detailed information regarding its very low impact on surrounding properties, the Planning Commission voted unanimously 7-0 to recommend to the Board of Appeals that it approve this conditional use, subject to the 7 recommendations and suggested conditions set forth on page 6 of the Planning Department staff report dated January 8th, 2021, and it was signed by Volney Ford, Chairman of the Planning Commission.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Grimm, do you wish to enter anything into the record?
Yes, sir. I would like to just briefly go over my staff report, which was provided to the Board of Appeals, if you don't mind.
Okay, let us just for the record note that I believe everyone was furnished the document from January the 8th, the Department of Planning staff report.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Grimm.
Okay. This case is Board of Appeals Case 513, as you noted. It is for an assisted living facility with a maximum of 15 residents at 550 Revolution Street. Property is zoned RO, Residential Office District, and it's just under a quarter of an acre. The applicant's property is located on the southwest corner of Revolution Street and Freedom Lane. It's in the downtown mixed-use designation of the comprehensive plan and is also in the National Register Historic District. The existing property is improved with an existing building that was previously approved as a boarding home for veterans. And that use did cease last year. And the applicants have come in with their request for an assisted living facility in the existing structure, plus an addition that will ultimately bring the total number of residents that they would like to provide services to a total of 15. As I noted, there was a rooming house or boarding house that was approved in 2008 by the Board of Appeals under case number 431. And the property has been sold and there are new owners of the property. And Ms. Alfred is the co-applicant that will be operating the facility. And I just did want to draw your attention to how we came to use the healthcare facility designation as the conditional use that the applicant would be asking for. In 2014, 806 South Union Avenue was a property where the owner requested an assisted living facility. At the time, and still presently, there is no assisted living facility designation in the zoning code. However, at that time, the Board of Appeals did not agree with the Department of Planning's recommendation at the time for how they would like to see that request reviewed and approved. It was the position of the Board of Appeals at that time that the assisted living facility fell under the definition of healthcare facility. And therefore, that created precedents that we are using now to say that this facility would fall under healthcare facility, which is conditional use in the RO district. And the Department of Planning agrees with that precedence set by the Board of Appeals in 2014. And we are hopeful that in the near future, we will be working on some updated ordinances to allow for assisted living facilities as a specific use category. As you know, I always go through section 25-16B of the city code, which refers to conditional uses and how they should be reviewed by the Board of Appeals. And I answer all those questions from the perspective of the Department of Planning. I won't go through all of those, but none of them were concerning. And I believe that the applicant can adequately address all applicable items under 25-16B. And then in conclusion, the Department of Planning recommends approval of this request subject to the 7 conditions that are proposed in the staff report. The facility will be highly regulated by the State Department of Health, and it's a much needed use in our community and throughout the country, actually. So it'll provide a much needed use in the community. I have no reason to believe that this won't be a better use and better maintained under the current ownership and the proposed tenant than it was previously. Therefore, we recommend the conditions are in the staff report. I won't go through all of them. Typically, they're mostly all standard type conditions. However, I will note that it's my understanding that Ms. Bordone, who lives adjacent to the property, has had conversations with the proposed tenant, Ms. Alfred, regarding the construction of a fence, a privacy fence between the properties. I don't want to speak for Ms. Alfred, but it's my understanding that she was agreeable to some type of privacy fence. And therefore, I would propose that the board put a condition also, an additional condition requiring installation of a privacy fence. The Department of Planning has no objection to that, and certainly they could do that with the issuance of a permit from the department. So in conclusion, just want to note that the department does recommend approval of the request, and we would respectfully ask that you include the conditions suggested by the department. And that's all I have, Mr. Packard. Thank you.
Where would that privacy fence be? On the south side of the property?
That's correct, sir. Between the facility and Ms. Bordone's residence, which was constructed recently through Habitat for Humanity
Okay.
and Ms. Bordone's.
That's where I thought you were talking about. I just wanted to be sure. Thank you, sir. Who will be speaking on behalf of the applicant first?
Good evening, Mr. Packard. For the record, Bradley R. Stover for the applicant and co-applicant. We mentioned before the hearing went live, with me tonight is Mr. Paul Vogel, representing applicant and property owner Newman Foster Family Trust. Also with me is Ms. Jasmine Alfred, co-applicant and the proposed operator of the assisted living facility. Offline but participating tonight, and also my first witness will be Mr. Mitch Enzer of Bay State Land Services. So at your pleasure, Mr. Packard, I'd like to call Mr. Enzer as a witness.
Certainly.
Mr. Enzer, if you could, please state your name and address for the record.
Mitchell Enzer on behalf of Bay State Land Services. Our address is 2012 Rock Spring Road in Forest Hill, Maryland, 21050.
And Mr. Enzer, what is your professional background?
Yeah, I'm a project manager and a partner of Bay State Land Services. For services regarding our company, I manage projects and manage most of the planning for our company.
And Mr. Enzer, have you qualified as an expert before this Board of Appeals in the past?
Yes, I have.
Mr. Enzer, do you have a copy that you could screen share of your resume this evening?
Yes, I do.
And unless there is some objection to accepting Mr. Enzer's qualifications to testify, having looked at these qualifications before and accepting him as a witness, I, without objection, would just go ahead and allow Mr. Enzer to proceed. Does anybody on the board have any issue?
No objection here.
No.
With no objection, we can allow Mr. Enzer to move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Packard. Mr. Enzer, are you familiar with the property that's the subject of tonight's hearing?
Yes, I am. I've visited the site many times.
And if you could, I believe you have an aerial view of the property. Could you screen share that for us?
Sure can.
And perhaps just briefly, thank you, perhaps just briefly, orient the board with the location of the subject property and the surrounding properties.
Yes, the bullseye there is at the subject property, 550 Revolution Street. If you can see my cursor, it's running along Revolution Street. Freedom Lane runs to the east of the property. The parking area that accesses the site comes off of Freedom Lane in this direction. The existing structure is shown at the target. Just behind the property is a fenced-in area that the cursor is running over now, and an existing shed. And I believe the subject of the proposed fence was running along the south property line or in this general vicinity.
Have you had opportunity to review a site plan that's been prepared for this project?
Yes, I have.
If you could pull that up for us.
Let me get this down. Hold tight for a second here. Okay, is that up on the screen, guys?
It is. Thank you. So we're looking at a site plan prepared for 550 Revolution Street. And you touched on some of this a minute ago with the aerial photo, but again, can you orient us with the road network and the improvements on the subject property?
Yes, this would be to the north of the property, runs Revolution Street, Freedom Lane to the east. The existing structure is on the westernlymost portion of the property. Parking comes off of Freedom Lane. The existing shed is just to the south of the existing structure. This is the fenced-in area that is currently already screened. The subject of the proposed fence would be along the southernmost boundary. And the proposed addition would be adjacent to Revolution Street, Freedom Lane, and the existing parking to the east of the existing structure.
Okay. What's the acreage or square footage of the parcel?
The parcel is approximately 9,000 square feet.
And it is zoned RO under the city zoning code, is that correct?
Yes.
Is it served by public water and sewer utilities?
Yes, it is public water and sewer.
Can you describe generally the neighborhood, some of the surrounding properties and how they're improved and used?
Yes, in a broad brush, the mix of uses are residential, business, and healthcare uses. To the south and east and west are adjoined by residential uses. Across Revolution Street to the north are several businesses and a church.
Turning then to the proposed use, you heard Mr. Grimm state in his report that the property was currently used as a transitional or halfway house. Is that your understanding?
Yes, it is.
And where was that prior use located on the property?
Prior use was in the existing structure depicted here with the lighter hatching.
And your understanding the applicant tonight is seeking to operate an assisted living facility at this property?
Yes,
And would that be within both the existing light gray area and the proposed addition of dark gray?
yes, the existing use is proposed to have 6 residents, and the proposed use is designed to include an additional 9 for a total of 15 residents at the property.
Okay. Is it your understanding that the applicant would construct the addition in a manner such that it would be similar or would match the existing building?
Yes,
Okay. The parking area that's shown on the plan, is it sufficient under the code to meet the proposed use and the 15 residents?
yes, it is. I believe during the planning commission meeting, the parking was determined that under Mr. Volney's description of what he historically has seen for assisted living facilities was 1/2 of a parking space per resident. That would put an approximation of 8 required spaces under that mathematical equation, and the site would support 11 spaces.
Do you have an understanding of how many employees will work at this facility?
It is my understanding from the planning commission meeting that there would be 2 employees at the site.
Turning then to the provisions of the code, Mr. Enzer, have you had opportunity to review the factors the board would consider under section 2516B of the code?
Yes, I have.
And we'll go through those briefly. First, in your opinion, Mr. Enzer, will this proposed assisted living have an impact on the number of people residing or working in the immediate neighborhood?
No, I think it would be a benefit to both of those factors.
Do you believe that in fact this proposed use would be less impactful and more beneficial than the prior approved use of a transitional or halfway house?
Yes, it's my understanding that the proposed use should be a welcome addition to the city.
In your opinion, would the proposed assisted living facility have any negative impact on the orderly growth of the city of Havre de Grace?
No, in my opinion, in reviewing the comprehensive plan, this would be very consistent with the goals of the comprehensive plan.
In your opinion, will the proposed use have a negative impact on any traffic conditions, including parking, sidewalks, or safety zones in the area?
No, in fact, this use, having parking on site is somewhat unique to properties of this size, which should be a benefit to keeping the parking on the subject site.
In your opinion, will the use have a negative impact on the peaceful enjoyment of individuals nearby in their homes?
No, I don't believe it would be any impact to the residential homes in the area. The residents would be inside the dwelling for the predominance of their time.
And would, in fact, the additional proposed condition of installing a fence along Ms. Bordone's property line also relieve any potential impact on her property?
Yes, it would put that physical barrier between the two properties, and it would be consistent with the existing fence that already resides along that portion of that property line.
So in other words, it would just be an extension of a fence that partially exists along that boundary line.
That is correct.
In your opinion, would the proposed use have any negative impact on the surrounding property or property values?
No, I don't believe so.
And again, as you testified a few minutes ago, in fact, it's more of a welcome use than perhaps the transitional or halfway house that was there before.
Yes, and consistent with the comprehensive plan, it is a redaptive use of an older structure being renovated and brought up to newer facades and aesthetically pleasing exteriors.
In your opinion, would this use have any effect regarding odor, dust, gas, smoke, fumes, or vibration or noise on adjacent properties?
No,
And in fact, being an assisted living facility, the use is almost exclusively internal or inside the proposed buildings, correct?
yes, that's my understanding of the operations.
In your opinion, Mr. Enzer, is this the most appropriate use of this property?
Yes, it is. It's an extension of a very similar prior approved use. And I think it would be a welcome addition to the residents of the city of Havre de Grace, in that our population is getting older, and it gives those folks a way to stay in the city as they grow older and stay close to their friends and family.
Are you aware of any court decisions impacting this property?
I am not.
Do you believe the proposed use satisfies the purpose of the Havre de Grace regulations and code?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe this use will have any impact on any nearby schools, churches, or other institutional uses?
No, I don't. The closest institutional use is to the north and a little bit diagonal to the west. And I don't believe there would be any impact to that facility.
Are there adequate facilities for water and sewer and trash removal for the proposed use?
Yes,
Will the proposed use have any negative impact on fire or explosive safety?
to my knowledge, no, it will not.
Are there any environmental contaminations on the property that you're aware of?
No,
And again, you testified earlier, you believe this is the most appropriate use of the land?
yes, I do. As I said, I think this existing facility, redaptive use, and the addition will be a well-used and well-needed facility in the city of Havre de Grace.
And you touched on this a little bit a minute ago, but do you believe there's a need for this requested use?
Yes, I do. As I said, the population is getting older, and I can see this facility being used by a person who maybe can't reside in their dwelling, needs assistance, and still wants to live in the city of Havre de Grace near their friends and family.
Are there any nearby cultural or historic landmarks that would be negatively impacted by this use?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Does the plan provide for adequate separation from other structures and uses?
Yes, it does. The existing facility has been there for quite some time and is just being renovated to bring it up to current code and make it aesthetically more pleasing from the outside. The addition would certainly be brought up to code. And it's positioned parallel to Revolution Street and Freedom Lane in an area that would not put that addition closer to adjacent property lines and residential structures that are very near this project.
And again, installation of or extension of the existing fence along Ms. Bordone's property line will in fact create even more separation. Is that right?
Yes, the Habitat for Humanity sites, Mrs. Bordone's property is the closest residential structure to this property line, and that fence line would offer her some additional screening.
Will the proposed use have any negative impact on population or population change in the city?
No, in fact, I think it would allow the citizens of Havre de Grace to actually stay in town as they get older and need health care to be provided to them.
You mentioned this earlier, but again, is there adequate public facilities available to serve the proposed use?
Yes, the existing use is currently served by public water and sewer. And certainly we would work with the city if any upgrades to those facilities would be needed by either deterioration of the existing services or upgrades to service the new building.
Will the use have any impact on the present or future transportation systems of the city?
I don't believe so.
Is the use compatible with the existing and proposed development in the area?
Yes, it is.
And finally, is the use consistent with the City of Havre de Grace's adopted comprehensive plan?
Yes, I've reviewed the comprehensive plan, and there are several recommendations and considerations in the comprehensive plan that this facility at this location checks those boxes very nicely.
Overall, Mr. Enzer, in your expert opinion, will this use at this location have an adverse impact above and beyond that at which it would have at any other property in the RO zone in the city?
No, in fact, I believe it would have less of an impact at this location than other locations in the city because its existing use was somewhat similar to the assisted living use. And this would just be an adaptive reuse of that facility and an expansion of that facility at this location.
Mr. Enzer, have you reviewed the department's staff report?
Yes, I have.
And have you reviewed the proposed conditions of approval?
Yes, I've reviewed those 7 conditions and also acknowledged Mr. Grimm's additional condition of tonight.
Do you believe all those proposed conditions are reasonable and appropriate?
Yes, I believe the permitting requirements are very consistent with a type of facility like this. And the other requirements seem to fall into the City of Havre de Grace requirements for permitting. And all of those are very reasonable conditions for this project.
And the applicant will need to obtain approvals to operate an assisted living facility from all the appropriate state departments.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And the applicant will need to obtain all the appropriate building permit approvals from the City of Havre de Grace when the renovation and addition are constructed.
Yes.
Mr. Packard, I do not have any further questions on direct for Mr. Enzer.
Does anybody from the board have any questions? I'll reserve mine till the other board members have an opportunity.
No.
If no one else has questions, I have a couple.
Charlie, it's Bill here. I do have a question.
Certainly, Bill.
The the water and sewer that's currently at the property, do we know if that's adequately sized to support 15 people living there?
Mr. Packard, if I may, I can address that question.
Go right ahead.
Sure. So the 15 residents are proposed once the addition is constructed. So the initial residents that will be in the existing building, it will not really be that much more than what was previously in that building. So what is serving that building currently will be more than adequate to serve a proposed use. Once the addition is constructed, then the city will have to look at that to make sure that the water especially is sized appropriately for any fire flow or sprinkler needs and things like that. So to answer your question with the addition, we do not know at this time. So they will have to prepare water and sewer drawings and ensure us at that time before that addition is approved.
Okay, good, thank you. And the rooms, the existing rooms, do they meet the standards? I guess that's set by the state health department for size and egress at this time?
That's correct. They will have to submit to the state all of their plans and get approval. Typically, and Mr. Stover, his client, can speak if I'm speaking out of turn, but typically the state likes to see that local zoning approval has been issued before they'll review any further plans or permits. And in my experience, particularly at the county, was oftentimes there was an individual at the state that would call me and say, we've received a request from someone. Have they even received their approval from the county at this time? So typically they like to see that local zoning is approved before they'll even move forward with processing applications and reviews.
Okay, great, thank you. That's it for me.
Jeff, Sam, anybody? Okay, I have a few questions. Do you intend to utilize the existing building and then build the addition, or will this all be inhabited after the addition has been completed? Anybody?
Yeah, Mr. Packard, I was next going to call Miss Alfred, who would be the one operating it, but she tells me that the plan is to get up and running, get the approvals for the existing building, and then, once the addition is approved, obviously it'll need to be vetted through both the city's permit process as well as the state for the additional rooms.
Okay, so you're not anticipating any great renovation in the existing building?
So the renovation within the existing building is largely complete. Obviously, that'll be subject to approval by the state. But to answer your question, no, there won't be any significant interior work needing to be done in the existing building. Obviously, there will be construction of new units within the addition.
How many baths will be in the completed facility?
3 full.
Bedrooms.
He said baths.
So baths. Yeah.
That's a three-piece bath, vanity, toilet, shower.
1/2.
2 full, 2 full, 1/2.
That should be 3 full. 3 full, 1/2.
And the existing. Not in
Oh, and the existing 2 full, 1/2. Yeah.
And again, I'll have Miss Alfred testify with more detail about the operation itself.
Okay, then I'm gonna hold off on my questions until she's made her presentation, because obviously most of what I'm gonna ask are things that haven't been addressed yet. So you can, if nobody has any other questions for Mr. Enzer, you may go ahead and call your next witness.
Thank you, Mr. Packard. Miss Alfred, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Jasmine Alfred, 4702 Sims Avenue, Baltimore, Maryland, 21206.
And Ms. Alford, what is your professional background?
I am currently an assisted living owner. Prior to that, I was a director at a few large facilities in Maryland.
And how long have you been involved with operating assisted living facilities in the state?
13 years.
Okay, so you are familiar with the state licensing process?
Yes.
And without getting too deep into the weeds, what generally is that licensing process?
Well, normally with the process, especially in the county, we have to go through what we're doing now. Each jurisdiction, you'll go through and they'll let you know the different rules and regulations that they like. Once that's done, then you'll go and submit your, for zoning. You'll go through zoning. Once that's approved, then you'll have use and occupancy come out. Once they come out and approve, then you'll have the fire marshal come out as well. Once you have those three things, then you'll submit your application to the Office of Healthcare Quality. They'll set up for a surveyor to come out and do an on-site visit and then get approval from there.
Okay. And it's your goal to obviously operate an assisted living facility at this property?
Yes,
And of course, the approval process that you just testified about, that would apply both to the existing renovated building and the addition here?
yes.
All right. Let's talk about first the existing or the renovated building. How many rooms are proposed or are located in the existing building?
3.
And how many bathrooms within the existing building?
2 full baths, 1 half.
Within the addition, how many rooms are proposed?
In the addition, we're proposing it. So it depends on the size of the rooms, because for it to be a double occupancy, it has to be at least 120 square feet. For it to be a single, it would have to be 80.
Okay. And how many bathrooms would then be proposed in the addition?
1 additional, and that'd be a full.
Okay.
Yes.
And is it accurate that at no time, you're not seeking approval to have any more than 15 residents total by the time you're said and done with construction of the renovation and the addition?
Correct.
Okay. How many residents would be within the existing or the renovated portion of the building?
6.
Okay. And then up to 9 in the addition?
Yes.
Okay. How many employees will you have for this facility?
2.
And how many are on site at any one time?
2.
Are the employees on site 24 hours, or are there certain hours that they're there?
24 hours.
Can residents be visited by family members?
Absolutely, but due to COVID, we do have some restrictions right now.
Okay, that was my next question. Do you currently have any or plan to have any COVID restrictions?
Yes, absolutely.
And what are those safety protocols?
Those protocols will be governed by the governor. It really depends. By the time we open, things may be lifted. But right now, there's a restriction for no visitors unless you are on palliative care, which is hospice care. You are allowed 1 visitor.
Okay. What level of care will residents be afforded at this facility?
3.
Okay. And just for some of the folks who are listening who might not know what that means, what does the number 3 signify with respect to a level of care?
Okay, so I'll start out at level 1. Level 1 is your low level of care. That can be someone who's just cueing, reminding, medication management. Level 2 is more moderate. That's someone who you have to actually assist, do their medicine, help with bathing and those things. Level 3 is someone who is hands-on, a resident who is aging in place, who you'll have to assist completely dressed from head to toe and administer medication.
Okay. Will any nursing level care be provided at this facility?
No,
All right. So in other words, it's not going to be a nursing home facility.
no, it won't.
All right. All right. So we've talked about your operation. I do want to touch on some conversation about Ms. Bordone's property. Have you had opportunity to discuss with her directly some of her concerns
Yes.
about the use?
Yes.
And what generally was the nature of that conversation with her?
For the main, her main concern was the operations that was there previously. She just was concerned, and I reassured her it would be for assisted living. My target is 65 and older residents with, aging in place residents, I should say. And The other concern was with the holly tree. We spoke about that a few different times. The first time we really talked about maybe cutting the tree down, but then she called me again, which I always tell her I'm a phone call away, that we will keep the tree up, but then do a private fence.
Okay, so you are agreeable to do that privacy fence that we've been speaking about?
Yes,
this evening.
absolutely.
All right. And you brought up a great point, a question I should ask. Is it your intent to have any transitional or halfway house use at this
No,
property?
not at all.
Mr. Packard, I do not have any additional questions for Ms. Alfred, so I defer to you if you have questions about the operation.
Okay, I do. Again, I'll go back to the addition is a down the road addition, not prior to opening the facility.
Correct.
That's right. I don't know if you heard her, Mr. Packard. She said correct.
Okay, and you are seeking 15 spaces in this with the addition.
Yes.
Is there a day room?
Yes.
Is that going to be in the addition or in the existing building?
Existing.
In the existing building. Kitchen?
Yes.
Okay, you're going to have only 2 employees?
Yes.
So they're going to do 3 meals a day, prepare the food,
Yes, along with assorted meals.
serve and assist those patients that need assistance,
Yes.
clothe them, bathe them, and
Yes.
okay. What
So-
did you say the level of care was going to be considered?
A level 3. So the way that you do your level,
Pardon, 1, 2, 3?
yes, 1, 2, 3. So I'll be able to accept level 1, 2, and 3. But I just wanted to go back to your concern with the staffing. The way that the staffing works, normally in bigger facilities, you have staff ratio one staff member to about 20 residents.
And you'll have 2 to 15.
Yes.
My concern is not really how many employees you have, as much as for us to do a conditional use, we are generally more concerned with the facility, the property, the adjacent property, those sorts of things. However, you're asking us to make a decision reference to 15 tenants. And I'm going to generally assume, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that number somehow is influenced by the fact that previously it was authorized for 6 tenants.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm not sure how you figure so many square feet per tenant. You got a 3,000 square foot facility, 3,300 square foot facility, and that'll be 15 people. There were 6 people there. Now you're going to have 15, but they're going to have the same size day room, or have you increased that any, or what's that?
Yes, it's been increased a lot, and the previous was licensed for 6, but it was well over 6 occupancies there.
Well, the previous allowance was for up to 6 people who were VA veterans in a rooming house situation, not in a care facility, not in a assisted living facility. So I'm thinking that the level of care that needs to be extended, the number of people. When there were 6 people, we required 2 bathrooms. You've gone from 6 people to 15 plus 2 employees. So 17 people in a facility that has 3 bathrooms. You know, the 1,700 square foot area had six residents. We required 2 bathrooms. Now you're going to go into a 1,600 square foot, put 9 people in with 1 bathroom.
Well, Mr. Packard, let me ask the question of Ms. Alford. Ms. Alford, what does the state require with respect to ratios for number of residents and bathrooms within a facility?
And I'm going to read off of the state OHCQ documentation. Bathrooms for residents. An assisted living program shall provide toilets in a separate room. Hold on one second. Let me get down to the ratio. Shall have a minimum. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. Okay, here we are. Building with 1 to 8 residents shall have a minimum ratio of 1 toilet per 4 occupants.
In this case, you're going to have 3.5 baths with 15 occupants total.
We'll have 3 full and 1 half.
Right.
Yes.
3 full, 1.
So in a building with 1 to 8 residents, you have what?
Building with 1 to 8, you have 1 toilet for 4 occupants.
Okay, and beyond that,
I'm sorry.
what do you need for a facility with 1 to 15?
So it would be 3.5 would be sufficient enough.
I mean, you just read something to me that said you needed a certain number for a certain number of people.
Uh-huh.
What is the next discipline?
1 second. So for us to have 15 residents, we would need at least 2 full and 1 half. But we're going to have 3 full and 1 half.
Oh, you're going to have 3 full and 1 half.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know. I never heard you say the 3.5. Okay. What time frame are you expecting to do the addition?
It's dependent on the approvals. Once we submit the plans.
Have you gotten any indication on approval for the existing building for such care as you want to put in there?
No, we have to do this process prior.
Do we have any anticipated time frame? I mean, are you going to apply for the addition right away? You're going to apply for the addition a year down the road, 2 years down the road?
The goal is to, with the existing building, is to at least have that full prior. So even if it's 4 to 6 months down the road.
4 to 6 months for the proposed addition, or 4 to 6 months to open the current facility?
4 to 6 months for the addition.
Okay. What is the size of the day room? Do we have a square footage of that, or?
We do have I didn't introduce it because this is not set in stone, nor is it fully approved, but I do have, actually, Mitch, that's you. You're going to have to share the 2. Yeah, if you could pull up the other 2 tabs with the floor plans. So this floor plan, I don't want to represent as any way, shape, or form approved by, we still need to go through the licensing procedures through the state, but this is a floor plan of the existing building, and then we also have a proposed floor plan of the addition.
So the
Okay.
existing building has not been renovated.
The existing building has been renovated, but it has not been vetted and approved, and stop me if I'm wrong, guys, through the state for operation as a assisted living facility.
So you've made these renovations that we're seeing.
That's correct.
Okay, I hate to say it. I'm going to ask this question for others because my eyes are really good, but for the people that can't see that, which may also include me, what is the size of that day room? Okay, that's helping.
For us. There we go.
Okay,
Is it the living room?
Yep.
So you can see there in the middle of the living room,
uh-huh,
and then to the left of that, so that's the day room, and then to the left of that is the dining room and the kitchen
I see that.
for reference for your common areas. Also, you know, the
Left
laundry
of the
there.
dining room, is the dining room what we're calling the day room?
No, the living room is what we're calling the day room. The dining
That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
facility for the kitchen.
And when the addition is put in, will these be essentially two separate buildings? Or will there be a connection
Connection.
interior?
They'll be connected, and the addition also has a planned common day room type area for activities.
Mitch, can you pull up the other tab, the
I
addition?
can.
There you go. So you can see don't want to represent that this has been submitted to the city for approval on a building permit side and or approved by the state for an assisted living, but this is the proposed rendering, and you can see the connection there at the top.
Right. Mhm.
And obviously, any of all this would have to be approved by the city from the building permit perspective and the state for licensing, both of which are proposed conditions.
Is there a laundry facility in this building?
Yes, it's in the existing.
Okay, I think I see it there.
Yeah, at the top there.
Across from the bathroom, yeah, okay.
Right.
Is the present building sprinklered?
Yes. Has sprinklers and a fire pool stations.
Okay.
Is it sprinklered?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay. How did you come up with the determination for 15 patients?
Based off the square footage.
Okay.
Yes.
Anybody else have any questions?
And to follow up on that, Mr. Packard, that based on the square footage, that's driven by state regulation. The state has regulation with respect to minimum square footage for living quarters for a resident.
Okay.
Anybody have any other questions?
The staff, what level of expertise will they have at the facility? What are they nursing aides? What is how's the staffing work?
So the staff that'll be at the community, they will be CNA certified, as well as MedTechs as well, so they can administer medication. And also they will be a delegated nurse oversees their license as well.
See, so I'm sorry, the nurses what?
A delegated nurse for assisted living, you have to have a delegated nurse.
Mm-hmm.
She will oversee the staff as far as their license.
Okay, but she's not actually at or part of the facility?
No.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
And Charlie, is the addition a single story or is it 2 stories?
All one floor.
Okay. I think one of the concerns is the available space during construction with the constrained parking area and the impacts to visitors, staff, and residents during the construction period. Now that'll go away, but the parking lot for visitors and residents, I mean, I heard the math, but it does seem small. And adjacent neighborhood parking will be somewhat of a walk for anybody else, you know, coming to visit family or loved ones.
Mitch, I don't know if you can address that.
Yeah, I'll go back to the site plan. As you can see, the addition is actually, by its size, is going to be smaller than the existing building.
Yes, sir.
And the staff of the existing building would have ample parking on the opposite side while this new addition is being constructed. Additionally, with the fencing here and the existing shed location, there is room for staging should they need materials to be staged. Also, because it is a single-story building, all materials that'll come on site will basically be used as soon as the foundation work is in the ground. The material that comes in as far as lumber and trusses would all go immediately into the construction of the addition.
Mr. Stover, do you have anything else that you wish to?
I don't have any further witnesses, Mr. Packard. That would be the applicant's case.
Okay. I question for Mr. Grimm. Do you have the application from Newman Foster Family Trust?
Yes, I do.
Do you have it available there?
I do not have it available there. Typically, what I do is
Do you know what the application was for?
Yes, it was for an assisted living facility, healthcare facility.
Did it include any reference to 15 residents?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
And I did clarify after the fact the breakdown of, you know, what would be in the existing facility and the new facility.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions?
None for me.
If there are no further questions.
I
from
do
the-
have one. Sorry, I had trouble unmuting. Is the Newman Foster Family Trust going to be involved with the management day-to-day operations of this facility?
No, that's the landlord entity. It's Miss Alfred as the licensed operator through the state of Maryland who will be responsible for that.
Okay, so she is then leasing the building
Yes,
and
the
the property.
property. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? If not, the board will make some comments, debates, discussions, and then we will come back to render a decision. Can we bring up the screen so whoever's speaking can be seen?
Mr. Packard, I do know that there are 2 members of the community logged in, so I don't know if you want to offer them an opportunity to speak or have any questions.
Okay, I was not aware of that. Is there anybody that is logged in who wishes to address the board?
Mr. Packard, I know Ms. Bordone had wished to address the board. I don't believe Ms. Hodel plans to do so. If Mr. Rudchinsky would allow Ms. Bordone to be unmuted, that'd be great. Adam, you're on mute.
My apologies. Ms. Bordone is unmuted.
Ms. Bordone, do you wish to speak to the board?
Good evening.
Hello?
Hi, it's Catherine. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, good evening to everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. And my dog appreciates it too. If you can hear my dog in the background.
He sounded like a no vote.
He's protecting me.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm very happy to have an opportunity to address everyone, and I do respect everyone's time, so I'll keep it brief. Mr. Grimm has been a very beneficial help to me. He's explained all of the background information and encouraged me to just come before you and express myself, and I have very little to say.
I can't hear anything. Does anybody else hear her?
No, I have nothing.
Mr. Packard,
Yes.
if I might, it's totally up to you. I can call Ms. Bordone via phone and let her know that we're not able to hear her. And if she has anything specific that she'd like to relay, I can do that, but it's totally your call.
That would be fine. I mean, this is, not our normal board.
Right. Okay, sure. Hold on just.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so shall I go ahead?
Please.
All right. I was just saying thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you, and that Mr. Grimm has been a great help in assisting me as I did my research and attempted to understand the protocols and everyone's concerns. I'm very pleased that my request has been considered, and I will continue to enjoy the peaceful atmosphere of my home because the fence will be constructed. And I'm encouraged that Mrs. Alfred and I have a congenial relationship to go forward with.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else who needs to speak, has any questions? If not, then, as I said before, the board will debate this topic and we will come back with our decision. Who wants to go first? Phil, Bill, Jeff, somebody?
Well, I'll chime in if no one else will. The last time that we considered one of these facilities, the one that we approved on Union Avenue, I've had the opportunity to visit someone in that one. At that time, I was concerned about the size the number of patients or residents that would be there. This is my same concern. I look at 15 residents and 3 bathrooms, 3.5 bathrooms, and say, wow, that seems like a lot. However, when I was at the facility on Union, I was very pleasantly surprised at the size, and I was in a room. On paper they seem small, and they do seem small, but the people seem to be there, the size seemed to be adequate. And, we always worry about square footage. I always worry about square footage and the size of these things, but that one seems to be very nice. And people that have family members there are so pleased that they're able to have them. It's definitely a type of facility I think is needed more of in our community. Charlie, a question for you as far as the put your fire hat on for me, if you would. Adequate access for fire?
I can't imagine that there is an issue with that. New construction has got to have the sprinkler system, and they've told us that the addition or the existing building is sprinkled. That alleviates a tremendous amount of concern. I think Sam would consider that to be the case also. Residential sprinklers are phenomenal.
Yes, sir. I agree wholeheartedly. The access off of Revolution and then Freedom, it's no different pulling apparatus and access. Yeah, you'd like to have more room, but being single story, the use of large ladder trucks, being close, like a multi-story occupancy, not really applicable for how we would attack it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I look at it from the standpoint of our job is more to consider the zoning issue, the use of the property. When they start to include the question for the number, then I think that makes us look at the facility, the number of bathrooms and such. Again, it's all governed by the state, people who know far more about the operation and the well-being and the care of individuals of whatever class 1, 2, or 3. My gut feeling is if you say 15 people and all 3 of them or all 15 of the people are extremely requiring service, 2 people doesn't seem like a lot. If 15 of them are people who just need some assistance with getting up and down, maybe help some bathing or, and prepare their food for them, then it's not a big deal. That's really, it weighs on me, but I'm not sure to what extent it's really our concern as much as it is the licensing facilities and the state. So, much like when we looked at this property before, we were not looking at it as a nursing home or an assisted care facility. We were looking at it much, much more as a boarding house even. So that, I think with the conditions that are imposed adding the fence across the back, those areas that we are most concerned about. I can, I have some reservations about 15 people. I have some reservations about 15 people, as you say, 3.5 baths. I have some reservations about 2 people. But those are my personal concerns, and I don't think they address the issue that we look at, those 21 or 22 incidental that we are really concerned about. I don't have an issue with any. What say you all?
Yeah, I got a question for Shane, Charlie. The conditional use application for up to 15, does that specify, and is that tied to the expansion?
Yeah, so I just wanted to point out real quick that obviously without a specific assisted living facility designated in our zoning code, there's nothing in the zoning code that says you can have a certain amount of individuals per size of dwelling or property. But to answer your question, that is what they're specifically asking for is 15 total. Now, regardless of what they're asking for, still the state is only going to allow a certain amount of people in that existing facility. So they wouldn't be able to put 15 in that existing facility because it wouldn't meet the requirements for the individual rooms.
Okay, perfect.
And while I have the forum real quick, Mr. Packard, may I make one quick comment?
Yes, sir.
I don't, it's not my job to do this, but I just wanted to say, I would recommend that the board take up a separate motion and a specific wording for the privacy fence if it is your desire to place that condition. So I would suggest that someone make a motion to have that condition, vote on that, and then vote on the.
What condition is that, sir? What condition?
The condition.
I'm sorry, you broke up there. What?
Sorry, the condition for the
condition of
the privacy fence that was requested.
Want me to do that, Charlie?
I'm stumbling here because, okay, I knew I got about 20 pages laid out here. I knew I had those 7 recommendations, and the only thing I would like to add is that no more than 6 residents until the addition is completed, has a UNO. Does anybody have any? I can't hear anybody. I think Bill's.
Mr. Chairman, I'll try to say something here. Everything's breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, okay, you're back.
Maybe Shane can help on this, but wouldn't the state, if you put a limit at 6 in there, the state may say they only can have 5 in there. Is that correct, Shane, or?
Absolutely.
Right. I understand where Mr. Packard's going with it, but ultimately it's really the state that regulates that based on the size of the building. I believe Mr. Putland was trying to say something, but he was on mute.
Bill?
I was. That was really, you guys just answered my question. Yeah, I thought that would be regulated by the state. And I think, that's what, to me, that makes sense that we would use whatever the state guidelines are for the existing and proposed space.
Okay, somebody want to make a recommendation? We can get it into the record.
Are we back live on this as far as on the record now, Charlie?
No, we're still debating.
Okay. All right, well, when we go back on, I will make a motion that we add one additional requirement and list it as number 8. And that would be the inclusion of that privacy fence, if you want me to make that motion.
I think
And
we're
vote
going
on
to
that
do,
separately.
I think we're going to do the privacy fence as a separate motion. Okay. That Mr.
I recommend we proceed
suggestion, I
with
have
the,
no problem doing that. So I think we take our first report.
Charlie, we lost you there for a bit, so I'm not sure
Okay.
what you said there, just about 10
I'm
seconds
not
ago.
sure what I said either. We, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay. Can we have a consensus that we will go back on the record with a motion to accept the 7 conditions from the staff report? Is that a thumbs up for everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. The second, we'll have a second motion for the privacy fence. Okay. Before we lose everybody and completely fall apart, let's go back on the record and see if we can get these 2 motions and let these folks start their project. So at this time, the Board of Appeals is back in full session. Whatever we say or do will be part of the official record. Do we have a first motion? Mr. Powell, take yourself off mute. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that we, sorry about that. I move that we grant this conditional use based upon the City Planning Department's report dated 1/8/2021.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion to grant the conditional use with certain conditions. And the first set of conditions is the 7 items under the Department of Planning staff report. We have a second and a motion.
I'll
I will
second
vote
that.
yes. Okay, I thought you did already. I'll vote
Okay.
yes. Bill, your vote?
Yes.
Sam?
Yes.
Mr. Putland?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Okay, so it looks like we have 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. We have one other condition to impose before we grant the request. Do we have a motion for the privacy fence as a condition?
I'll make
I will
that
make-
motion for the privacy
I second
fence.
that.
Carhart makes the motion, to second it. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a
Get that.
motion. We have a
I
motion
second.
and a
I
second. Okay, we got you.
All right.
That the final condition for the approval is that there will be a privacy fence erected between the subject property and the property to the south side where the newer home has been built. Mr. Powell, are you in favor?
I vote yes.
Jeff Carhart,
Yes.
Mr. Cubberly,
Yes, sir.
I vote yes. Mr. Putland,
Yes.
5 in favor of the privacy fence contingency. Having no other questions or comments to be made at this time, I would offer my congratulations and best wishes for the project. And I would like to just state that, as I said in the beginning, there are certain rules in which the Board of Appeals operates. Anyone who wishes to avail themselves of those rules and conditions, who may wish to appeal our decision, can find such information at City Hall. Thank you all.
Mr. Packard, I just did want to say that those of you who did not hit unmute will be receiving fines tomorrow. Mr. Putland will be expected to pay $60.
That's a bargain. That's a bargain.
So,
I never muted myself, so I should be okay.
I think it was just Mr. Putland, so he'll get that bill.
Well, I think Mr. Powell might be in for about 15.
Yeah, yep. Okay.
Do we have to vote on my fine? I mean, what's the deal?
Yeah, that's it's automatic.
No, I do have to say,
The director can impose the fine at his will.
I do have to say, I just wanted to thank you all again. This is, Charlie, you run an excellent meeting with these virtual things. I'm hopeful that this year we can go back to a regular meeting at some point, but thank you to you all for your patience as we still navigate this. It's working as well as it can work. Thank you to Mr. Stover and his clients and Mr. Enzer as well for their patience as we do these.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Packard. Good seeing you, sir.
Good seeing you. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, good luck. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank
For the
you,
member-
Adam.
For the members of the board, I will be leaving next Friday to celebrate my retirement. So I'll be in Florida for February and March. If we have any other hearings and I can get online, I will participate gladly, but I'll make no guarantee about what kind of service or connection or I can have down there. So
You're not allowed to be by the pool with a drink and an umbrella and all that stuff. So we don't want to see that.
but I may do that, but I'll try to cover up. Thank you. Good night.